Welcome back. Our mill is all warmed up and ready for a vise. This will require several tools including, a dead blow hammer, a dial indicator, an edge finder, parallels, and stock, to name a few. All these items, and others, can be found on the workbench to your left. Your first step is to open the mill door and check the table for any debris. If there is anything left on the table, your vise will not be level. Swipe your controller over the table to make sure it is clear.
The table is clear.
Before you place the vise on the table, you need to spray it with a bow shield. Bow shield is a rust inhibitor to help protect the vise and table. Next, you will grab the vise and place it on the table. You will want to make sure the bottom of the vise is cleaned before it is placed on the table.
When you grab the vise, turn it over and swipe your controller over it to make sure it is clear, then place the vise on the mill table. The vise is clear.
Now that your vise is in the central position, you will need to tighten it into place. Grab the T-bolts from the table and slide them into position. To start the vise alignment process, we will tighten only the left T-bolt. This gives us a pivot point for making small adjustments easier. Grab the wrench and tighten the left T-bolt. Now we need to check the alignment of the vise. To do this, we will change out the tool for the dial indicator. First, you will press MDI then T10. This will initiate the tool change process. The tool slot has been emptied. You will need to insert the dial indicator into the tool slot. For the sake of the exercise, we have already placed the dial indicator into the end mill holder. The tool will snap into place on its own, but usually tightening would be required. Now that the dial indicator has been placed, we will be determining the alignment of the vise. The vise needs to be perfectly aligned to ensure there are no collisions or work errors. We are automating this process for you, but will describe what is happening. What you will see now is the table moving so the vise jaws are directly below the dial indicator. If you were completing this task, you would use the handle jog to manually adjust the X and Y positions. Once the dial indicator contacts the left side of the vise jaw, you are looking for the dial indicator to read 0. Once it does, the table is in the correct position to continue the alignment check. Now that the dial indicator is reading 0, we can proceed. Next, you will see the table move in the X-axis, so the dial indicator sweeps across the face of the vise jaws. You are looking to see the dial indicator change, which tells us that the vise is not perfectly aligned. As you can see, our dial indicator has moved from 0, so our vise needs some slight adjusting. I could use your help here. Grab the dead blow hammer and tap the front right side of the vise a few times until the dial indicator reads 0. Great! You can see that the dial indicator now reads 0. This tells us that the vise is aligned from left to right. We need to tighten both the left and right T-bolts to make sure it is secure. Grab the wrench and tighten both T-bolts. We will check one last time that our vise is still aligned. There is always a possibility that we knocked or shifted the vise while aligning. Our dial still reads 0 in its current position. You will see the mill table move in the X position again. Looks like we were successful in keeping the vise aligned while tightening the T-bolts. Great work! Our vise is now ready for stock. To protect the vise, we will first place parallels into the vise. The stock will sit on top of the parallels. Grab the parallels and place one on each face of the vise. Now you will place the stock in the vise sitting on top of the parallels. Perfect. We want to make sure our stock stays put. Grab the wrench, and tighten the front bolt of the vise. Just to be safe, grab the dead blow hammer and tap the top of the stock, to make sure it is snug in the vise. Well done! This completes the vise setup portion. You are now ready for the next course. Please click the door to move on. Welcome back. As a refresher, in the previous module you spent time going through the startup process of the mill, including warm-up and setting the vise. The machine is ready for the next steps, which will involve finding the work offsets and loading a tool. As a reminder, if you need to return to the home screen, press, and an overview of the controls can be found on the wall. Now that the stock has been properly placed in the vise, we need to find the center of the stock. Finding the center of the stock tells the machine its exact position. You will need to remove the dial indicator and place the edge finder in the tool slot. The edge finder will spin once the spindle is turned on. Then we move the mill table in the X or Y position until the edge finder no longer spins. This will tell us the positions of the stock. The edge finder has been placed. We just need to turn the spindle on to 750 RPM. On the control panel, press 750 then FWD to turn the spindle on. Great. You will see the edge finder is now spinning. Our goal is to get the edge finder to be perfectly parallel. To do this, we will move the mill table in the X position to the left. As the mill table moves, the edge finder will make contact with the stock and spin less. We will move the table until we think the edge finder is perfectly parallel, then push just past that. This will ensure we find the most accurate position. This is a careful process that we have decided to automate. If you were completing this process, you would do so by turning the handle jog in decreasing amounts until you found the needed position. We have adjusted the table so it is where we need it to find the left X position. Now that we have found our left position in X, we will need to make note of the number on the control screen, -7.623. Then we will go through the same process for the right side of X. We will again take note of the X position, -4.844. The two positions we have will be added and then divided by 2 to find the center point of X for the stock. According to the calculations, the center point of the stock is -6.233. To enter this coordinate into G54, you will first need to select Offset to adjust the screen view.
You will click Offset a second time to go to the top of the page. Using the cursor, you will press the right arrow to go into the work view. In the G54X column, you will input the stock position we found, -6.233. Finally, you will select F1 to enter the coordinate.
Finding the central point for X is only one part of homing our stock. We will now go through the same process for the Y-axis. Our top Y position is -3.092. We will now find the bottom Y position. Now we have our bottom Y position of -5.377. We will again find the average of our two positions to find the center of the stock. Adding our two positions, and dividing by 2 we get -4.234. We will need to enter this in the G54Y slot now. Remember, you will first need to select Offset to adjust the screen view. Click Offset a second time to go to the top of the page. Use the cursor to go into Work View. Then input the coordinate into the G54Y column. Don't forget to press F1 to save the coordinate. Fantastic! We have found the center of the stock. Now we need to find our 0-point origin on the top of the stock. To begin that process, we will have to take out the edge finder and place the dial indicator back into the tool slot. We will also be using the 1, 2, 3 block to find our Z offset. Now would be a good time to place the 1, 2, 3 block on the mill table just to the right of the vise. Now that our tools are in place, we will move the mill table so the stock is below the dial indicator. We will then move the spindle down until the dial indicator reads 0. The dial indicator now reads 0. We will need to input this as the origin in the control panel. To do this, you will press Positions, use the cursor to go to the operator screen, then press Origin. We now need to find the offset of Z. We do this so the mill knows how far the tools can travel in the Z-axis. To do this, we will touch off the top of the 1, 2, 3 block and input the number in our offsets. Now that the dial indicator reads 0 on the 1, 2, 3 block, we know our Z offset number, -2.47. We moved the spindle down, so we will input the number as a positive. We will need to enter this in the G54Z slot now. Remember, you will first need to select Offset to adjust the screen view, click Offset a second time to go to the top of the page. Use the cursor to go into Work View. Then input the coordinate into the G54Z column. Fantastic work! You have successfully set up the vise, placed the stock, and found the offsets for all the axes.